We're going to have a go at sticky legs now. So we're not contacting with the hands, but you must keep in contact with the leg. And you can change legs. The objective of the exercise is to take your partner down onto the ground. So, if we think about our stances, like riding horse stance or duck stance, dragon or leopard stance, you just have to be careful if your shin comes into contact with their shin. So we have this principle of yin and yang, is that you have the hard part of your body there, but round here is soft. Can you feel the difference, especially round the back there? So you don't want a hard part of your body coming into contact with the hard part of theirs, because that's when you're going to get injured. But hard and soft is okay. So we've got crane stance, monkey stance, dragon stance. What else? Chicken?
You did riding horse, didn't you?
Riding horse. Just using the legs at the moment though.
Yeah.
Well, just experiment, see what happens. Okay, so find a partner then. Sticky legs, just be careful rubbing your shin against your partner's shin bone. So, anything to report? Come closer now, come on.
Putting a little bit of pressure on and then yielding.
Right. What does that do?
Well, it's sort of, they're responding to the small amount of pressure, and when you yield, they sort of go apart.
Right. So, how does that work on the legs then?
Well, I was doing it with that one, with the one that's kind of behind that one. Then I didn't do it very well, but then going back.
Kind of like a pulse, or
Yeah.
like using a direction
Let
change.
go, and then that would actually just that tiny movement.
So this is very important, isn't it? Is learning how to work with people's reaction and understanding how people react and how you react naturally. It's natural, isn't it? So what anything else? Right.
Thinking about
The upper leg.
and the torso.
Right. Yeah, because we can kind of get underneath his leg, can't we? And we've got this inclined surface here.
Uprooting.
And then it's starting to uproot them, isn't it? And then people find it difficult if you're behind them, because we're used to working with things in front of us, aren't we? So when you start moving around behind, anything else?
It highlighted another aspect of the stances that I wasn't aware of. For instance,
Go on.
leopard and crane, and
Yes.
a different use for them. I didn't know.
So we've learnt these stances previously, and then now we can start to, that's just is a way to, and that's quite interesting in a way, don't you think? Because sometimes as a teacher I'll be standing around and I won't have a partner, and and then just to pass the time I'll be watching people and see what they get up to. which you have to do as a teacher anyway, just to make sure people aren't hurting each other or whatever. And then sometimes you see people doing like they're doing the forms. They do a form and they're not even aware of it. And then they're using that in the context of their partner exercise because we've perhaps just been doing it half an hour before or something. And that's quite interesting because it shows the way in which forms work together with partner exercises. Just the very fact that we've got these stances and they're just different ways you can have your weight distribution, or different ways, like a crane stance. You see I can lift his leg up with the crane stance. It's quite challenging using a crane, isn't it? Because you're on one leg, but on the other hand, when you're in contact with them, the contact point is actually supplying a frame of reference and giving you something to balance in a way, isn't it? But as you do more training, when you first start, you want to just do the easy things. But as you do more training, you start to realise actually it's the things that are difficult that are actually giving you a greater yield in knowledge. They're more challenging. And so you have to put more focus in, don't you, and concentrate more. Like when we're doing this crane and we're off balance, aren't we? We've got to really concentrate on our own balance as well as theirs. Anything else?
People are vulnerable when they step, so it's good.
Right.
Try and take them off balance.
So when we've got a transition, why is that then?
Partly because their intention is on what they're about to do, but partly because they're only on one leg at one point.
Wait a minute, that first bit was quite interesting. What did you say again?
And partly because their intention's on the next thing that they're going to do.
What's she talking about?
So they're not focusing on the moment, they're focusing into the future. Right?
They're not in the now. They're planning. They're planning, which is an abstraction, isn't it? They're not in the zone for that moment. What else did you say? I never thought of that. That was really good. Wasn't that good?
Very good, yeah. I agree.
Also they're just in the mix, so they're momentarily
Well, they're trying to. They could be trying to recover their balance. They're losing their balance, so they have to move.
So in the transition, there's a movement from one thing to another, isn't there? And then maybe they've got a plan in their head. Come over this way a bit, you guys. Over here. Come this way. So in the transition, something's happening. There's a change going on. And what you're saying is that you've got a projected state in your mind that you're trying to achieve that plan, and then maybe you will, maybe you won't. So there's a certain amount of calculations going on, isn't there? The mind becomes occupied. Why is that making you vulnerable then? Anyone got any ideas here?
You're not focusing on what you're doing.
Ouch. You stepped on my foot.
Sorry.
He did it just now. He stepped on my foot and it's like, ow! For a moment, I was just thinking about the pain coming into my foot. I got this, it's a bit of a distraction, isn't it? And taking control over the other person's mental state, or being aware of their mental state. So why are we vulnerable when we step?
Pushing energy into it, which the person can use.
So because we're taking an action, it's easier for someone to read us. Like if we're completely still, you're not giving anything away, are you? But when you start to act and you do something, you're giving out information, aren't you? And then that allows the other person to read what you're doing. Right, so because you're sort of on output, your input goes down. So you're not reading. There's more to it than that though, isn't there?
If somebody's stepping in, they're physically uprooting themselves. So when they're uprooted, they're obviously, we know that we try to uproot people to take them off balance. But if they're
So
all
you've got a
doing-
state of balance in one stance, and then say you're moving to another stance, you've got another state where you're on balance. But in between those two things is a state of almost imbalance in a way. I suppose even when you step, you're stepping, like when we lose our balance just normally in the sticky hands exercise, we step. And our centre has moved, and then we have to put the other leg underneath in the new position, don't we, in order to provide support for the centre. Otherwise the centre would go down onto the ground, wouldn't it? We would lose our balance and fall over. Work with me on this.
So I guess
I'm losing it.
there must be a skill there if you're the person who's
Of keeping your balance even through the transitional point
Yeah.
where you're actually kind of using your loss of balance in order to move from one position to another.
somehow maintaining a groundedness, even though you're actually.
You've almost got to have intermediate stances, haven't you? So you're moving from one to the other.
I'm just thinking about. Go on.
Like the form you said yesterday, like the form you said, breathing exercises,
Speak up, I can't hear it.
like the form, you dance, you do it into 4 sections. So there's a beginning, an end, and a beginning, middle, beginning, end. There's 4 sections, isn't there, of the sequence to the dance.
Right?
So in that-
So we've got yin and yang. And so we've got an event, for want of a better word, and then the event is starting, and then there's the
Phases.
main part of the show, and then there's the end of it, and then even yesterday we were talking about the beginning of the beginning and the end of the beginning, like winter, spring. We've got the winter part of spring, haven't we? And the summer part of spring. Once spring's really got going, and then it's almost turning into summer then, isn't it? Which is the end of spring. And the same thing at the end. We've got the beginning of the end and the end of the end. In fact, in the I Ching, isn't there a hexagram called before the end? And isn't there one called after the end?
The thing is, the end of the end is also the beginning of the beginning.
That's right, it's a cycle. So, what of it, Martin? What is the moot of the matter?
They're all important, aren't they?
So we're starting to take the step, and then we've got the tricky bit, and then we've settled ourselves down, and it's like, phew, I managed to do that. You'll have to speak up, Martin. I just can't hear what you're saying. Speak up now, louder.
All parts should be balanced, really, to a certain
Well, ideally. So I'm just thinking about, let's say, for example, you're at home. Let's say you're going on a journey, and you've got to go somewhere, and then you've got to remember what to take with you, and there's all of that stuff, isn't there? And then once you've committed yourself, and you're out of the house, and you're on the train or whatever, it's like, I forgot my toothbrush, and you can't go back. So there comes this sort of what I'm getting at here is that as we're starting the phase of a change and of a movement, we can still go back. But there's a certain point where it's too late, and we've given the game away, and we've got to go through with that thing. We can't go back. Or maybe we can. But there is this question of, have I committed myself or not? And have I prepared properly? That's right. So I used the back leg of the chicken then. What was that, Sadie?
unbalancing your partner on a physical, mental level, so they're focused on themselves.
So I see what you're saying now. So if I'm going to make a change, I'm kind of vulnerable. When I'm here, I'm okay. And then when I've gone through with the change, I can settle myself down again. But just when things are up in the air, in the middle of it, that's the tricky part, isn't it? And then...
It's like when you do the foot flow and foot control, you either help them go up or help them go down.
Yeah. So I can make myself less vulnerable. What you're saying, Sadie, I think, is by upsetting their balance, and whilst they're off balance, then I can quickly do my change. Something like that, yeah?
The form analogy is the prepare before the sequence.
The calm before the storm.